When a woman suddenly becomes silent, many men panic. They assume the story has ended, the connection is gone, and there's nothing left to salvage. But in truth, silence doesn't always signal the end. It often marks the beginning of something deeper, a quiet transformation that's happening behind the scenes. When a woman withdraws, she's not always walking away. Sometimes she's observing, reflecting, and strategically positioning herself. She's assessing not just you, but herself, her emotions, and the role she played in the relationship. Her silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. Corey Wayne often explains that women don't operate in the same way men do when it comes to emotions. While men seek immediate resolution, women process internally. That period of silence is her recalibration phase, where she detaches from emotional chaos to find clarity. Most men, however, interpret this phase through their own lens of fear and insecurity. They rush to call, text, or beg for closure. They break their composure, trying to win her back with desperation instead of presence. What they fail to see is that she's not looking for reassurance. She's testing stability. She wants to see if you can remain calm under emotional uncertainty. Your silence, your focus, and your ability to hold your ground are signals of strength. When she distances herself, she's observing whether you'll fall apart without her or rise stronger within yourself. This is where emotional discipline becomes powerful. Jordan Peterson often says that a man must be capable of standing firm amid chaos. The woman's silence becomes that chaos, a mirror reflecting your level of mastery over emotion. In her silence, she might still think about you constantly. She might replay memories, moments, and words you said, but she won't act impulsively. She's waiting to see what you do in her absence. Will you become needy, or will you transform? She may check your social media quietly, look at old pictures, or listen to songs that remind her of you. Yet she'll say nothing, because the feminine tests through distance, not confrontation. Her energy pulls back to see what kind of man you truly are when her validation is gone. Corey Wayne emphasizes that attraction grows not through pursuit, but through patience and self-control. When a woman sees that you're capable of walking away peacefully, she begins to respect you again. During this phase, your mindset determines everything. If you panic, you lose control of your frame. If you focus on your purpose, she feels the shift in your energy even if you don't speak. That calm confidence creates an invisible pull. It tells her that you were never trying to own her. You were simply becoming the best version of yourself. This balance between detachment and strength is what reawakens her attraction. When you no longer need her to feel complete, she starts to question why she ever left. That's the silent power of masculine energy, its ability to remain grounded when everything feels uncertain. Jordan Peterson would describe this as the evolution of the hero archetype. The moment a man stops being dependent on external validation and starts building internal order. It's not about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about genuinely reaching a state of peace with or without her. Women intuitively feel that difference. When you truly accept the silence, when you embrace it as space for growth rather than rejection, she senses your maturity. That's when curiosity replaces anger and attraction replaces indifference. So before you assume her silence means it's over, understand what's really happening beneath the surface. She's not ignoring you, she's watching. She's not giving up, she's reflecting. She's silently measuring your strength, your discipline, and your emotional control. And if you handle this phase with grace, if you stay calm and keep living with purpose, that silence might become the very reason she decides to come back. Because the man who doesn't crumble in her absence becomes the man she can't forget in her solitude. When two people drift apart, emotional distance can feel like punishment. It feels like rejection, like the warmth that once existed has vanished into cold indifference. But what most people fail to realize is that emotional distance often creates the very spark that closeness once smothered. When a woman pulls away, it's not always because she's lost interest. It's often because the space is needed for attraction to breathe again. The more you chase, the more you suffocate the dynamic. The more you detach and refocus your energy inward, the more curiosity and desire begin to rebuild naturally. Corey Wayne often reminds men that women are drawn to mystery, not predictability, to confidence, not clinginess. Emotional space allows that mystery to return. In relationships, men often make the mistake of overcommunicating when things feel unstable. They want reassurance, explanations, and constant contact. They believe closeness will fix the tension, but it often does the opposite. The feminine doesn't respond to pressure, it responds to polarity. Emotional distance gives that polarity room to reemerge. When you stop trying to force connection, she begins to feel your absence in a way that words could never make her feel your presence. She starts to notice your silence, your new focus, and your emotional composure. Suddenly, the man who once seemed predictable now feels distant and centered, a combination that awakens her curiosity. Jordan Peterson explains this phenomenon through psychology and balance. Relationships, like life itself, exist between chaos and order. Too much closeness creates emotional chaos. Too much distance creates isolation. But healthy space allows balance to return. When a man stops reacting out of fear and begins to act from self-discipline, he rebalances the polarity. His detachment becomes an act of strength, not neglect. The woman feels that energy shift. She no longer senses a man chasing validation, but rather a man secure in his own identity. That's when attraction, which might have faded, begins to rekindle. Think about it. The moments when you were most attracted to someone were rarely when they were begging for your attention. It was when they were grounded, unavailable, focused, and at peace with themselves. That emotional independence is what pulls people in. When you back off, she's left with silence, and in that silence, her mind begins to wander. She starts questioning, why isn't he reaching out? Has he moved on? Did he change? That curiosity becomes emotional fuel. Corey Wayne often calls this creating space for her to come to you. When you stop chasing, you give her room to feel your absence and rediscover her attraction through her own emotional rhythm. During this period of distance, your growth is what keeps the connection alive. The more you invest in yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, the more magnetic your energy becomes. Women are naturally drawn to progress. When she sees that you're not sulking or waiting around, but improving your life, her perception of you begins to shift. You're no longer the man defined by neediness. You've become the man defined by purpose. That's when her emotions start to reattach not to who you were, but to who you've become. Jordan Peterson might call this process a restoration of masculine order. You step into your role not as a pursuer, but as a leader of your own destiny. That shift in frame changes everything. She starts to feel that the emotional connection she once lost wasn't broken. It was just buried beneath too much attachment. Space gives it air to breathe again. It allows her to feel, to miss, and to remember why she was drawn to you in the first place. So, emotional distance isn't your enemy. It's your silent ally. It forces both people to see clearly what they truly value. It challenges the man to master his emotions and reminds the woman what genuine masculine energy feels like. When you learn to embrace that distance with confidence, it becomes the bridge that reconnects what desperation once pushed away. In that quiet space, attraction is reborn, not through words, but through energy, growth, and self-respect. The moment you finally let go is the moment everything begins to change. It's strange, but attraction often works in reverse. When you stop chasing, that's when she starts paying attention again. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or pretending not to care. It means releasing the attachment that keeps you trapped in emotional dependence. It's about shifting your focus from trying to control her actions to mastering your own. Corey Wayne calls this becoming centered, a state where your peace no longer relies on anyone else's response. When you let go, you allow life to unfold naturally. You stop forcing outcomes, and in doing so, you become magnetic without even trying. At first, letting go feels painful. You've built your world around her presence, and suddenly, you're faced with the silence of your own thoughts. That silence, however, is not emptiness, it's opportunity. It's the space where you rediscover who you are beyond the relationship. The paradox of love is that clinging drives people away, while freedom brings them closer. When you stop trying to pull her back into your life, you unconsciously create space for her to walk back on her own. The energy shifts, she feels the absence of your pursuit, and it begins to echo in her emotions. While she may not say it, she notices the difference. The man who once chased is now calm, grounded, and focused on his life. Jordan Peterson often speaks about transformation through responsibility and chaos. When your emotional world falls apart, that's chaos. But within that chaos lies the seed of rebirth. Letting go becomes the process of rebuilding order, not through her return, but through your own growth. You start working on your mind, your purpose, your body, your mission. You begin to become the man you were supposed to be before emotional attachment consumed you. That growth doesn't go unnoticed. The woman who once left starts to feel your strength again, not because you tried to show her, but because you stopped trying altogether. In Corey Wayne's teachings, this is called the comeback through indifference. Women are instinctively drawn to men who can remain calm and composed in uncertainty. When you let go, you show that your happiness isn't tied to her approval. That kind of emotional independence is rare, and it commands respect. She may not return right away, but the energy begins to shift. You're no longer the man begging for attention. You've become the man who earns it naturally. That transformation speaks louder than words ever could. This process also brings a deep psychological shift. When you detach, you stop defining yourself through her validation. You begin to live for something greater. Your goals, your purpose, yourself. Discipline become the new center of your universe. Jordan Peterson would describe this as moving from dependency to competence, the hero's journey toward order and mastery. You become the kind of man who doesn't need anyone to complete him. Ironically, that's when people want to be part of your life again. Your confidence, your silence, your focus, they all radiate an energy that pulls her in. When she does start to come back, it's not because of what you said or did. It's because of who you became in her absence. Your detachment showed her that your love isn't rooted in neediness, but in strength. You've proven that you can walk away and still remain centered. That's the kind of emotional control that women deeply respect and find attractive. Letting go is not about losing her, it's about finding yourself. So when everything inside you screams to hold on, remember that your power lies in release. The man who can love without clinging, who can feel without chasing, who can care without losing his peace. That's the man who commands respect, love, and attraction. When you finally let go of what you can't control, you become free. And that freedom is the exact energy that often brings her back, not because you forced it, but because you evolved into the man she always hoped you'd become. When a woman goes silent or distances herself, it's easy for a man to assume she's stopped caring. But more often than not, that silence isn't a rejection. It's a test. She's not testing whether you love her. She's testing whether you can handle her absence with emotional strength. Women, consciously or unconsciously, want to see what kind of man stands before them when emotions run high. Do you lose composure? Do you chase? Do you crumble under pressure? Or do you remain calm, grounded, and secure in your identity? Corey Wayne teaches that masculine energy is defined by emotional stability, not reaction. When you stay centered, you communicate strength without saying a word. That's what draws her back, your ability to remain unmoved by uncertainty. Women are emotional by nature, and they often express love and fear through tests. These tests are not manipulative, they are instinctive. They want to feel safe, to know that the man they're drawn to won't be shaken by chaos. Jordan Peterson often discusses the concept of chaos and order, the feminine representing emotional fluidity and the masculine representing structure. When she pulls away, she's unconsciously creating chaos to see if your order holds. If you react with desperation, anger, or fear, you fail that test. But if you respond with patience, self-control, and purpose, you demonstrate real masculine power. That's when respect and attraction begin to grow again. In relationships, emotional tests come in many forms: silence, distance, coldness, or unpredictability. Each of these is designed to reveal how deeply grounded you are in yourself. When you chase after her silence with neediness, you communicate weakness. You tell her that her approval defines your peace, but when you hold your composure, when you choose to remain focused on your mission instead of her absence, you send a far stronger message. Corey Wayne often says, a man must be outcome independent. That means you love without attachment, you care without losing control, and you let go without resentment. You're not afraid of losing her because you've already mastered yourself. This doesn't mean ignoring her or being cold. It means standing still while she tests the wind. It's the difference between reacting emotionally and responding with awareness. Jordan Peterson might call this carrying the burden of responsibility. A man who carries his emotional responsibility doesn't make his woman responsible for his peace. He owns his emotions, his actions, and his growth. That steadiness is what a woman subconsciously looks for when she withdraws. She wants to know if you can lead through uncertainty. When she sees you can handle that pressure, she begins to trust you again. During this silence, she's not just testing you, she's also watching how you treat yourself. Are you spiraling into self-pity, or are you investing in self-improvement? Are you sitting in fear, or are you embracing purpose? Women are naturally drawn to movement, to growth, to men who stand tall even when they're alone. The man who loses himself in her absence loses her twice, first emotionally, then spiritually. But the man who grows in her absence becomes someone she can't easily forget. Every time you stay composed during emotional tests, you strengthen your masculine core. You prove to yourself that your emotions no longer control you. You control them. Corey Wayne often says, your strength inspires her femininity. When you remain solid, she feels safe enough to soften. She can trust your presence again because she sees that your love isn't built on fear. This is how silent tests become opportunities. So when she disappears or withdraws, don't panic. See it for what it is, a test of your discipline, patience, and emotional strength. Stay calm, stay focused, and stay grounded in your values. The man who doesn't flinch in the face of emotional uncertainty is the man she eventually returns to. Because in a world full of men who react, the one who remains steady becomes unforgettable. Before you assume it's over, remember this. She may be silent, but she's watching to see if you're strong enough to deserve her comeback.